So before the PRACC, we had what they called the community centre, and that would have been built in the 1980s, and that was attached to the pavilion, which was probably, I think we thought was about 50 years old. And the Shire wanted to do some more work, but they were spending a lot of money on it. They got plans done. They got several, I reckon they would have got 2 or 3 lots of plans from architects to refurbish the community centre. And so that was when we came in. We went to a meeting to look at one of these plans.
The current Shire president, which was Shirley Lange, contacted 8 members of the community to come along to this meeting, which was held on the 11th of September 2013.
I think it was going to cost about $8 million just to refurbish. We're at this meeting and we're going, surely we can do something a lot better than that for $8 million. And it was just going along, we were nodding, going, yeah. And in the end, I think I just had to say, look, surely we can do something better than this. And then basically the floodgates opened there. We all said, yeah, we think we can do something better than this. And from that meeting, Anne and I said, look, we could engage local builders, we could bring all the local trades in, and we could build something. Because from this meeting, it was $8 million, and we thought we could do something for $2 million. And so we asked the local builder, we said, do you think you could build us a PRACC? And he was all in it. And there was a local architect as well that was retired, and I went to him as well. And I said, do you think? And so that's where it all came out of. And there was a draftsman in Perth, and he was great. So we got him involved, and I went and had a couple of meetings with him in Perth, and he came up with this magic plan. We thought about it. We said, we don't want this here. We want this like this and this. And it was all functional. Beautiful, came out. It was a tilt-up building, had a beautiful entrance, and 2 or 3 million we thought we were going to be right. Anyway, he came up with this plan. It was a beautiful plan. I can't remember the costing, but it was $8 or $9 million. And we go, oh, no, we can't. We can't. And the Shire said, no, we're just not going to do that.
Patrick Beale, who was the professor of architect, had the university students come out and they did a plan with timber because he wanted something, a little bit different. So the students came up with pretty much this design. And
so we spoke to Patrick, and he basically said he could do it for $4 million. It should cost about $4 million to do. And we thought, well, it's more than 2, but it's less than 8. We'll buy this. And so then that's when the timber idea came. And the timber was a hard one to even sell to us, because we thought, how are we going to sell this to the community? Timber. And the maintenance, everyone thinks, what's the maintenance on timber? But Patrick said, look, there's some really good timber buildings in Melbourne. I suggest that a few of you go to Melbourne and we'll go on a bit of a tour around Melbourne and look at timber buildings. So that's what we did. 25 years, 30 years, I think some of them had been there, and they were still weathering quite well. They'd silvered over age, but still looked rather nice. So the floorboards that were removed from the sports hall part of the old pavilion were given to the men's shed, who ran them all through a thicknesser, and many of them made it here, and they're here on the floor. Some of them you still might see some of the marks of the sports lines in the hall, but I think it's wonderful to have part of the history coming forward. And then so the outside of the building is yellow stringy bark, and how that came about, there was a plantation down in Manjimup. Basically this yellow stringy bark had been grown for power poles, and it had never been really used in the building industry at all, and it was for Western Power, and it was going to be used for power poles, and it wasn't adequate for them. So they had this whole plantation of timber basically that it really didn't have a use for it. And Patrick said, well, I think it could be great. We can get it cheap. Yeah. There's 350 tonne of yellow stringy bark in the building, and 45,000 tech screws in the veranda. FYI. When people just give you a figure in your head saying this room is so many feet by so many feet, or metres or millimetres or whatever, how big's that really? So we had the measuring tape all the time, didn't we? Stretching it out. We did not realise the size of this building looking at a plan. We had all the metres, but we didn't realise, and the architects were telling us it was huge, and the builders were telling us it was huge, but we really didn't have it. So that's hence the measuring tape after that. We sort of thought, we've got to get this right,